Well, hello, avid readers. I always have so much fun reading books from authors that I have never read before. When you hear unique voices, when you get captivated by stories that very unique, very fun to get wrapped up in. But let me tell you a little bit. We're going to be talking about the Jaguar Oracle series by Kurt Mahler. So, Kurt, welcome to the podcast. And why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, it's great to be here. I'm so excited to converse. So, my wife and I have been married 31 years, and about 20 of those years we've lived outside the United States in about 40
Okay.
in about 40 countries. So we raised our family in Afghanistan, where we started a community development organization, and I'm an international personal advisor, life coach. I'm based
Mhm.
outside of Dubai, travel internationally for that. An author, keynote speaker. Uh, Really, what it comes down to is we've just been in a lot of places. We have some stories, and we try to offer encouragement to people for their sense of calling. So that's what I do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is making so much more sense to me now because your writing is so poetic and it's very almost like you're sitting around a campfire and you're just like getting pulled into these stories and which is I started listening, I'm making dinner, and I'm like, and I almost like paused. I'm like, oh, because I mean, I read a ton of books. I listen to probably 6 or 7 audiobooks a month, like complete audiobooks. Most of them are fiction. And so like romantic suspense and sci-fi fantasy, all these types of things. And literally with yours, I'm like, this is unique. It's very poetic. I feel like I'm sitting around a campfire and just like
Mhm.
being drawn into the story. So when you say I've lived most of my married years overseas, like all of a sudden, like it's clicking in my brain why this makes sense. And I love that. So how do you think living outside of the country, in the United States, has kind of shaped your writing?
Well, backstory a little bit. I've had great teachers in terms of
Mm.
writing and English literature. I have a master's degree in journalism. So there's that background. And I love the outdoors. I'm from Texas, suburbanite from Texas with ties to New England, Louisiana, Gulf Coast, the Rio Grande Valley, where much of the story takes place. But
Hmm.
living overseas and speaking to people in their language created a communication opportunity, specifically in
Mm.
Afghanistan, where it's a storytelling culture. And for all the things we know about Afghanistan that are not beautiful, there is, ironically, in their culture, a storytelling, poetic culture. And here I am speaking to them in their language, it's obviously not mine. And I learned the power of parables. I was once in this
Yes.
situation. We had stumbled upon an Al Qaeda camp. That's a whole other story for another time. And so to kind of make myself scarce, I went into this neighborhood, and I was with Afghans I'd never met, but I found myself telling a form of the parable of the wedding banquet in their mother tongue. I was actually with two of my daughters on a daddy daughter date. Long story short, for our purposes of our conversation, I'm telling this parable, and without any other action, context, or explanation, simply telling the parable, a woman stands up, an older woman stands up, and with her finger points to the crowd and starts interpreting the story, and people are responding. And and
Wow.
so I realized in that moment, oh, the power of poetic and parable storytelling is real, and that really informs, along with, just loving C.S. Lewis, George MacDonald, Tolkien, the whole poetic, prophetic
Mhm.
Christian tradition. That really informs this story about a jaguar who remembers the Garden of Eden. So I'm not an Oxford professor. I'm not an Afghan. I'm a guy from Texas. So it comes out in a Texas tale.
Yeah, I love the whole mix of it, honestly, is so refreshing, and, it was so just, like, captivating. Like, I will definitely use that word, captivating, interesting, and again, the poeticness of it, the way the story tells. So, tell us a little bit about the story, like, if you just can give her, like, an overview, don't give away
Sure.
things, but
Oh,
tell us
no,
about the
sure.
story, like, why you wanted to write it in this way.
Well, I stumbled upon the story. I suppose many fiction authors can say that. I was actually preoccupied with some other issue I can't even remember, praying about something. But I was in South Texas, and just before this kind of brooding over some issue, I had come across a coffee table book at my in-laws that had all these pictures of the beauty of the flora and fauna of South
Mm.
Texas. But in all the beauty, there was this one black and white photo of what was believed to have been the last jaguar hunted down and killed in South Texas in 1946. At the time, they thought that was the last one. And suddenly, this thought came into me: what if a jaguar came back to Texas? And it snowballed. And somehow, early in that exploration and drafting, I it's kind of like Michelangelo, the statues inside the marble. I'm just discovering it.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
occurred to me, oh, this jaguar remembers what it was like when Adam named the animals. He didn't just say you're a giraffe, you're an ox, you're an alligator. He would speak a poem. He would speak a proverb. He would speak a prophetic word. And so I realized that there was a beautiful story. So that's the energizing factor. It's a parallel drama. It's magical realism. It takes place in real Texas, real restaurants, real roads. I think people who know Texas will smile and laugh at some of it. Um, there's this drama where all creation has a voice: the stars, the moon, the trees, the raccoons. But then there's a very real human drama with very
Mhm.
real people and very real issues. There's an abandoned child on the beach that the birds find, and they name a miracle because somehow they know there's a miracle involved, that he survived
Yes.
some tragedy. And then there's this very real story that opens up alongside the animals in the human world.
Yeah,
That's the
this
whole premise of the whole thing.
and that's why I'm like, I can't think of anything else like this that like in modern literature, but once you're saying, like, George MacDonald, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, I'm like, "Okay, yeah." I like it's like everything again is matching up in my mind, and so, if you are definitely someone that's like some, books are like, we're kinda seeing the repeat of something, go definitely get these books because, it's so unique and beautifully written. So tell us about the books in the series, give us, the titles of them, at least at the beginning ones that for sure as they get started on them. So tell
Sure.
us kind of about the books.
Sure. Well, I highly recommend reading them in order. So it's a
Yes.
7 book series. At the time of this recording, 3 are out. 3 will have just come out when this recording's released. And the first one is basically the story of the jaguar coming to Texas. So he's from the Yucatan Peninsula. He lives in the jungles among Mayan ruins. And a monarch butterfly, blown off course by a hurricane, lands there. He rescues her, and he tells the story of the prayer of the last jaguar that the Anacahuita flowers and trees of South Texas remember from 70 springs ago. A prayer for a successor that he prayed to the moon and the stars, to watch for a successor. So he doesn't understand how he can fulfill a prayer like that, but he's going to, as he says, put his paw forward and do his part. So he journeys to South Texas, and he crosses the Lady River, the Rio Grande, and it's this bilingual, bicultural world. But like I said before, all creation has a voice, and he discovers that the animals have forgotten their names. They don't remember what Adam spoke.
Mhm.
They're more surviving, not thriving. In the words of the Green Jay, she says, we have our wings, but we don't have our song. The nest has fallen. And so he realizes, oh, I can help the animals remember what Adam spoke to the first of their kind. And then immediately the plot thickens with this abandoned child, and they're trying to get him back to his parents. And slowly, humans awaken to the presence of this jaguar. So
Mhm.
the trail to the lonely tree is him going back to the tree where the last jaguar, Kahu the grave, he prays this prayer before the hunters in that black and white photo that I saw take him out. Then book 2 is called The Way Back to Eden. And that's a figure of speech coming from some of the human characters. There's a high-tech rancher, there's a Cheyenne American zoologist, there's a cartel lord trying to retire from his dirty life. There's vaqueros, there's all kinds of characters. And there's a hermit on the Brazos River because a good part of book two takes place in the heart of Texas at a zoo and on the Brazos River. And there's this conversation unfolding about what does it mean to get back to Eden? Is it a lot of money? Is it being a hermit? Is it technology? Is it doing a good deed? And the main scene for the whole epic is this 400 square acre ranch called Eden's Bend. It's got everything on it from cattle to a rocket. It's this futuristic Texan, and he has this place called Eden's Bend. And so the way back to Eden is basically about the Jaguar, whose name is Oracle, navigating this world and awakening it. But he wants to find this missing animal, which leads to the third book. And again, this is real, it's magical realism. There is a type of feline called the Jaguarundi. And they are barely, if any of them, live in the United States anymore. And haven't been seen in South Texas for a long time. So he is on a quest to find what they call the shadow cat by getting
Mhm.
a riddle from the coral snake and a code from the turtles, because he realizes, oh, I need to restore the animal kingdom. And if the shadow cat comes back, certain things missing in terms of wonder and awe and mystery and honor and love in the kingdom will be restored. So that's books 1, 2, and 3, The Trail to the Lonely Tree, The Way Back to Eden, and The Search for the Shadow Cat. And I don't think I spoiled a thing, I
Oh,
think.
good. Yeah,
But
I don't think you did either. And I love the opening is you mentioned the Yucatan Peninsula and the
yeah.
Mayan ruins. I've been there before,
Oh,
which it's like I'm like the descriptions you have. I'm like, yes, this is what I remember. And then when the monarch butterfly, I mean, it just opens up so beautifully. And then I love like we're in Texas. I live
yeah.
in Arkansas. It's not too far from Texas, although the Texas you describe isn't what I see when I'm driving to Dallas. Let me just say that.
yeah. That's awesome. Great. Well, it has been a labor of love because it's magical realism, or it's
Hmm.
magical realism rather. I have labored to make it real. I mean, first of all, there's the privilege of knowing that part of Texas myself. I've
Yes.
been to the
Yes.
I've been to the Oyster Bar restaurant. I've been on Coffee Port Road. I've been to Port Isabel, but um, the stars, for example, every because the animals at night navigate by the stars. All
Hmm.
those references are exact based on an app. All the history
That I love
about
that.
different places. Everything is the biology, zoology. I don't think it counts for a PhD at one level, but at another level, I got it because
Yes.
I wanted someone. For example, there's a scene where an airplane is landing. I interviewed a pilot, so if a pilot reads that, they are landing the plane with them. So I hope it's a joy for people of all kinds of professions and backgrounds.
And that's what I love. I love when you know someone has done the research and it does breathe life to the book. It's not like,
Hmm.
let me just kind of make up some stuff and this is kind of how things work. But I do feel that like it brings life and it makes it like you can immerse yourself completely because it's making sense. And like, even if I don't know all the technical terms, it's
Yeah.
making sense as you read the book. And then you have the elements of prophecy, of
Hmm.
destiny, and of moral choice through the books.
Yes.
Why do you think those are so they resonate with readers? And it's like, that's kind of going back to that the classic literature that we talked about earlier, where there was the prophecy and talk
Hmm.
the moral choices are so strong. And I think sometimes we kind of miss that, even if we have all the fantasy or
Hmm.
realism elements. So talk about like why you wanted to make sure those elements were in these books.
Well, at one level, it just seeped out, kind of in the same way that,
Mhm.
hot water goes through my V60 pour over and it comes out coffee. I have uh, again, I've just been privileged with educational opportunities, classical literature for a season, coursework for a PhD. Didn't complete a PhD, but just I was around people who were in touch with our heritage in terms of the classic literature, the Dante, Milton. Spent a good amount of time immersed in them, and then of course the father of the Inklings, literarily, with literature and spiritually to some degree too, George MacDonald, immersed in him. There was there's just something in me that wants to pick up those traditions, which really are
Mhm.
uh, through the resurrection of Jesus, they're picking up the Hebrew prophetic tradition, I would say, in a creative way. So the story honestly didn't start out with an overt intent to teach, but it was a discovery that as I was writing this story happened. And what I realize now is that this story is an encounter rather than an explanation for the person who's learning to begin again after a success, a setback, the start of a new life season. Really, in short, they're looking for courage for their calling in whatever season or station of life they're in.
Mhm.
Because again, it was a discovery for me. The main character is discovering his calling. He starts off as a volunteer to pick up this prayer from this distant land where no jaguar has been for 70 springs. And he discovers his calling really just from a place of he's doing the loving thing. He's doing the right thing. He's volunteering freely to step into a place where there's an absence of self-giving love and life-giving words. And in that context, this dynamic of the Hebrew prophets and the Inklings and the classical tradition, and really, I mean, Dante and Milton at one level are really profound models for me. What they were doing in their epics was they were rehearsing or reliving or revisiting the entire story between the creator and the created. And that's, yeah. And so it's all come out. And the animals, I mean, you'll see this as you read it or listen to it. Uh, Humans are humans. They're texting,
Yeah.
they're speaking in half sentences. Sometimes they don't make sense. They're mixing their grammar. They got a full plate. They're distracted. The animals, even the kind of the bad ones or the sinister ones, they have a storytelling culture. They take time to say a prayer. They'll say kind of like a prophetic kind of encouragement to one another. They'll sing to the rain clouds and dare them to rain. They'll, because there's a drought in the story. They have this culture of reflection and contemplation and depth that I think sets up a contrast and hopefully inspires the reader to go deep too.
And, I just yesterday we were walking in the woods just a little ways, and you kinda hear the birds and you see stuff. It almost seems like that's what's happening. Like, it almost seems like it's poetry and that everything is much more connected just because God created it that way. But I
Yeah.
love that you brought up the Hebrew, just like kind of the Hebrew culture, or the way things were done. Because I have a Bible podcast that I do too, and just reading like even the book of Job, reading it with more Hebrew, not translation, but Job was written in poetry and
Yes.
storytelling. And
Yes.
so like phrases where it says like Job is saying, "How dare the morning sunrise?" is actually like, "How dare the blinking eyeball of the sun over the horizon?" And I'm like, our translation is so horrible. Like, you miss so
Yeah.
much in it until
Yeah.
you go back and, like, and so the book that Robert Alter actually, like, translates it more. This is how it would be poetically in Hebrew, kind of this imagery, and it's like, that has so much more depth to than the morning sun is rising. And so I
Yeah.
think that the English language misses out so much of that. And I think because first of all, storytelling culture that you've been immersed in, and then a lot of other languages have more of that poetic.
Hmm.
And we're just like a
Yeah.
mishmash of words, and we're just like
Yeah.
so blunt and straightforward and
Yeah.
rude. I don't even know.
Well,
Uh
what
yeah.
one thing you're reminding me of, as I was beginning to write this story, it's been years in the making, was this this observation that at least in Western cultures, a lot of times uh, people are maybe they're over what's good, they're over what's true, they're either not sure what's good or what's true, or they're done with it. But they take beauty seriously. Now, beauty can be two
Mhm.
kinds, but I'm talking about the kind of beauty that disarms, invites, and builds up, like a sunset or a
Mhm.
sunrise. And and that was a conscious choice for me. I want to write something that is beautiful. It really relates to the Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech of Solzhenitsyn in 71, 72, something like that. He's living under a communist regime, and he says, if goodness, truth, and beauty are like trees, and a civilization cuts down goodness and truth, well, then beauty just might grow and do the work of all three. And so
Mm.
that is uh, because I've lived in so many backgrounds and cultures. I'm writing with the person in mind that is on the road to Emmaus, is on the journey, so to speak, and might not know or carry the life giving words that have saved me, that have transformed me. But the beauty of what the Lord has created in creation is something they can track with now. And so that's actually one thing that is going on in the story. Yeah, is just I want it to be something that is very beautiful and builds people up for their journey.
Oh, so good. And this is totally a side note, but I once met a man and interviewed him. He grew up in communist Russia, and he was
Wow.
a he did art. He restored art in like the cathedrals, and so he's like sees Jesus everywhere because he's restoring art, but he has no idea who he is, like no idea.
That
And
is
he
so
actually saw
interesting.
an American missionary. This is before the fall of the Iron Curtain,
Hmm.
explaining to like a group of tourists like who this is, and he got a translator and he met him and like explain to me who this person is because
That
I'm painting him all the time. And that's
is
the
so
beauty
good.
part of it. That's exactly what you were saying, that
Yeah.
even with truth, and what was the other thing, when truth and
Goodness, goodness.
goodness are cut out, which, clearly beauty shines, and that beauty of him restoring
Yeah.
art led him to a relationship with Christ. He became a pastor, church planter, but that's exactly what you're
Awesome.
saying, and you can kind of feel that. So good. Okay, that was a total side note, but my next question is, like, Tolkien is known for his maps and Lewis for building these unforgettable worlds. Did you
Uh-huh.
build your world first visually? Did you picture it, like, the whole thing in your mind, or as you went, did things unfold and grow from there?
They unfolded based on, I suppose you'd call it an epiphany. I saw the end of the story. I saw it in, I guess, the
Mhm.
eyes of my heart. So, yeah, I don't want to spoil too much, but I saw the ending, and I
Yeah.
saw the characters, and I saw this gathering, and I knew it took place in South Texas, in the Rio Grande Valley, and the area there that is South Texas, north of the Rio Grande. And so, this, yeah, it was an unfolding, really. Um, yeah, and so yeah, that's how it started.
Well, it'd probably be too much in your mind to, like, think through all of that one time.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I heartily recommend writers begin with a series of short stories and don't try to start off with a ginormous epic like I have. That's my one piece of advice. But I
well, I was
can
gonna
say this.
say
Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go, you finish.
Well, what has kept me on this journey of perseverance has been things like a friend of mine from North Carolina who read The Trail to the Lonely Tree, and he's a map maker. He works in digital and handwritten maps, and he said, I am going to make a map of the story for you. This story has impacted my life. It's put courage in me for my calling. And so the map you see in both the print and the digital editions, oh, it's actually in the audio edition as well. It's a PDF there.
Yeah, if
Uh,
you could download, it says download the
yeah,
PDF, yeah.
yeah, and you'll see it's really Texas, it's really Mexico, and but there's another world juxtaposed on it. So that's
So
that's that's my
good.
world. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, 7 books is a bold commitment to
yeah.
do. And so that's what I was gonna ask, like, how did you keep track of your character arcs and plotting over the threads of this long series?
Oh, you're asking me how I've done that? Well,
Yeah,
there is a, let's see, it's several documents. One is called Timetable of the Tale, and it's a Google sheet, and
yeah.
it literally, it's the dates and the chapters, and it's the timetable, and in that I've got phases of the moon and what's happening in the seasons, uh, and the appearance of different characters. And then there's a Google Doc called Faithfulness of the Tale. So I'm reminding myself of what the intent of
Mm.
each character is. There's even just the botany and zoology, how much they weigh and how long they are, how long their
I
tail is,
was
that kind of thing.
figuring this. That's what I was, like, figuring. There had to be some
Yeah.
complex system to
Oh,
keep it all straight.
yeah, yeah. It's been a labor, but it I can't let go of it. It is at one
Mhm.
level I it's a stewardship, but yeah, it's a daunting thing. But yeah, that's how I do it. I have those practical documents and a few others. Yeah.
So good. Okay, so if you can invite any of your characters to sit down in like a water buffalo skin reading chair or something like that, um,
You know,
who would you who would you pick? No way.
yeah, that's it. That's really a water
Okay,
buffalo chair right there. Yeah.
there we
Okay.
go. Okay, who would you pick and what would you ask them?
Who would I pick out of my characters?
Mhm. Like,
Oh,
what yeah, if they just sat there and that you gotta have a conversation with them.
great. I would pick Patch the raccoon.
Okay.
So Patch the raccoon, he's a raccoon. He comes from a line of thieves and burglars, and but he is practical, pragmatic, but he ultimately really has a lot of compassion for others. I mean, he's actually instrumental in helping this abandoned kid that washes up on the beach, and so he is the first friend the Jaguar Oracle makes when he reaches South Texas. After he's had this encounter with this mean old alligator, he meets Patch the raccoon. So Patch is the original friend, sidekick, muse, I guess you can say use it that way, of the main character. And so he has this perspective on the destiny of the main character, but also he's from the valley. So he understands how it works and how the bobcats have issues with the ocelots and the coyotes are running rampage and the javelinas are trying to survive. And he sees that picture from this
Mm.
point of view of really, he's a clever character. He can get in and out of stuff, open up refrigerators. He's a raccoon. And he's one of the first to experience the breath of Eden. And that's
Mm.
what the character, or that's what the book calls it, when the jaguar will help an animal remember its name. He basically breathes, and there's this moment where the animal, and some of them are imported African animals too, because there's an exotic ranch element to this
Yep.
Eden's Bend place. They basically relive this moment when the first of their kind met Adam, and Adam said, "This is who you are," and unlocked that thing in them that only could be unlocked when Adam spoke it. And so Patch is basically at the very beginning of the tale and watches. I'm going to choke up. I don't know why. The whole thing, the whole thing
Mm.
unfold, and he loves the jaguar, and he loves the other animals, and he's got his own issues of feeling afraid and feeling selfish because he's a raccoon. He likes to hoard stuff, collect stuff, uh, and then he's got this connection with the whole human side of the story, which is its own drama. So and in the audiobook, Zach Hoffman, the professional actor who does the voice characters, he does Tom Hanks as, like, he does his Tom Hanks voice
That makes
for
sense. It's like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay. I'm
yeah,
connecting now."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the
And
voices
so
are fantastic, fantastic, yeah.
I'm so thankful. Yeah, I think he does Liam Neeson for the Jaguar itself, and
So fun.
yeah. It's so that's it. It would be Patch, because he ends up going on all these brave adventures, doing things far beyond his ability. How am I going to figure this
I
out?
think Patch might need a little children's book series. There's my
I think so
little
too.
That's a little
Yeah.
inspiration for you. And I love how you said that because I talk about all the time when I speak at writers' conferences and stuff and talk about my own books. I'm like, inspiration is the breath of God. Like when you go
Hmm.
back, inspiration in the Bible is literally God breathing. And
Yes.
yes, we can have AI that can whatever conform, whatever patterns. But the breath of God is where story comes from. It's where soul comes from. So like do your job. Do not worry about do not worry about computers.
Thank
Computers do not
you.
have the breath of God.
I need to hear that.
So
Thank you.
yeah, I love how I mean, you're clearly computers are not going to do spreadsheets with all these things and
Yeah.
worry about the moral story arcs and all the other stuff. Anyway,
Thank you.
but okay, so the first one is the trail to the lonely tree. The second
Yes.
one is the way back to Eden, and then the
Yes.
third is the search for the shadow cat. Can you tell us the
Yes.
title? Maybe let's go one more. Let's go book four, and maybe just a little bit of what we can expect
Yeah.
in book four.
Book 4 is called The Path in the Darkness. And so what's happening in
Mm.
that story is uh, uh, three things. Oracle is continuing his mission to awaken the animal kingdom to remember their names, because he knows that all bets are off about his future. He keeps talking about man's three choices, which, I mean, he says it poetically, but to say it plainly, are the people who want him to be free in Rome going to win out? Are the people who want to put him in a zoo going to win out? Or are the people who
Mhm.
want his fur going to win out? So he knows
Mm.
that his time is limited. So that dynamic's happening. But what also is happening is the breath of Eden becomes contagious. Other animals, I mean, the alligator, the ox, the manatee, there's a manatee off the coast. They start passing on the breath of Eden as well. So there's an awakening happening. But the human side really takes off. And there's a realization there's something going on here about this jaguar. And so certain characters are trying to discover the mystery that's around this animal. Others just want to take him. And so there's this
Mhm.
dynamic of, I mean, I joke, animal characters are relatively easy. Humans make everything complicated. They've got conflicted motives. They double cross themselves. They trick. So that's where the human side happens, and particularly in that book, the zoologist who has a Native American background and is in touch with creation in a certain way. She's to use the phrase from Act 17. I think it's something like verses 26 to 28, something like that. She's moving along the wall of her culture and her circumstances, looking for the mysterious divine reality that's behind it. That's
Mm,
that's basically what this character is doing. So she visits these caves where there are literal paintings of jaguars in far west Texas. That's magical realism. She's
yeah.
going to these actual places. So it starts getting thick there because the human side awakens. There's this cartel lord who wants to capture the jaguar for his personal arboretum. There's a sinister menace after this abandoned child. There's a couple people falling in love. Yeah, it gets really interesting. Yeah.
So
And
cool.
yeah. So yeah, that's the path in the darkness.
I love that. Okay. So I've a last question that's actually 2 parts.
Sure.
What do you hope listeners take away with when they finish the series? Or, just even go through book 3 or 4, like, or you could say finish the series. What do you hope listeners walk away with? And then second part of the question is where can people find you to find these books and to follow all that you're doing?
Great. Well, I want them to come away deeply moved that they can hope again for
Mm,
whatever God has put in their heart to do and to be, to begin again. There's actually an
yeah.
old, I think it's a monastic saying. It's semper incipe, always begin, and it's kind of a funny phrase, always begin, but it just means no matter how many no matter how many setbacks, successes, or new life seasons we enter, we begin again with hope that that we are part of a greater purpose and that we have a part to play that only we can play if we hold on to
Yes.
hope. So I want
There's a
people to
life
come.
coaching in coming right there. The life coaching is coming through.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's what I talk about in my keynotes and when I speak at groups. It all goes back to a framework I have called Courage for Your Calling. And honestly, I mean, it's like when I read the Golden Key or on at the back of the North Wind, and I'm reading to my children. Now they're all adults, married, but when they were little, I'm reading to my children, and I'm reaching these climactic moments, and my kids are looking up at me and saying, "Daddy, why are there tears streaming down your face?"
Exactly.
So my my
Yeah.
hope is that this story, which a child can understand, the plot that can
Mhm.
understand, that the adult would be deeply moved that they are part of a beautiful story if they can find courage to hope and begin again.
Oh,
That's
I
what
do
I
that
would
too. So good with C.S. Lewis, like,
Oh my
2
gosh.
parts of stuff, like, the birth of the earth, I'm, like,
Oh
bawling,
yeah.
like, and then also when, Edmund is getting the scales scraped off of
Oh
him,
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, "Wow," and the
Yeah,
kids are
yeah.
like, he's scratching getting his skin scratched. I'm like, "Okay, we'll just keep going with that. We're just getting his skin scratched, we'll go with
Yeah,
that." Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
good. Okay,
yeah.
so where can people find you and all that you're doing?
Great. Well, I have my own website. Part of the testimony of my life is I just have amazing friends who love me. And so one of my friends has designed a website, Nate Cornelius. So the website is my name, kurtmahler.com. I write essays on the ancient faith, essays on courage
Mm,
and calling, and poetry as well. And so one of the pages on there's a booking page there for booking me for speaking and things like that.
mm,
But one of the pages will have the latest updates on all the books. with as well as buttons to some of the major platforms for audio, print, and digital. I've got an Amazon author page. I'm actually on LinkedIn a good amount because of the coaching and speaking
Right.
that I'm involved in. Yeah, that would be the place to find me is kurtmahler.com. And people can sign up for my newsletter. I send them a little tool called Recollect Watermark Moments, where it's kind of a little bit of a hint from the story as well, just the recollection of what God said. Because my definition of calling is who God thought of when he said, "Let there be you."
Oh
That's
my
my
gosh. Okay, that also needs to be a children's book, like, completely. Please
okay.
write that as a children's book, I'm telling you
Thank
right now.
you. I
So many good
appreciate that.
things. Yeah, well, and then
Thank you.
also spell your last name. Well, we will have it in the show notes, but for those
Sure.
that are maybe driving us listening, like, spell your last name
Sure.
for them, they can find it.
So Mahler. I also put the little two dots on the top, but don't worry about that. It's Mahler. So
Alright.
KURTMAHLER.com. That's where you can find me.
Thank you, Kurt, so much for being here.
Oh, this has been an absolute joy.